The year was 1975. It was a time of change and discovery, a period marked by both turmoil and progress. The world was evolving, and so were the lives of those who lived in it. The place, the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona, a vast expanse of wilderness untouched by the hands of modernity. It was a sanctuary for those seeking solace in nature's embrace. It was a place of rugged beauty with tall pine trees and a silence that felt almost sacred. The forest was alive with the whispers of the wind and the rustling of leaves, a symphony of nature that played on endlessly. This was where Travis Walton, a young logger, worked with his crew. Day in and day out they toiled under the canopy of trees, their axes and saws echoing through the forest. They were men of the earth, connected to the land in a way few could understand. They were used to hard work, but nothing could prepare them for what was about to happen. The forest, which had always been a place of familiarity and routine, was about to reveal a secret that would change their lives forever. On November 5th, their world changed forever. The day had started like any other, with the men rising early and heading into the forest. But as the sun began to set, the ordinary day took an extraordinary turn. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor, the men packed up their equipment. The golden light of dusk bathed the forest in an ethereal glow, a beautiful end to a hard day's work. They were tired after a long day, eager to return home. The thought of a warm meal and a good night's rest was all that occupied their minds as they made their way back to their truck. But fate had other plans. As they walked through the dense forest, an uneasy feeling began to settle over them. The familiar path seemed different, the air charged with an unexplainable tension. As they made their way through the dense woodland, something strange caught their eye, a flicker of light in the distance, unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was not the light of the setting sun nor the glow of a campfire. A bright, pulsating light appeared in the distance, growing larger by the second. It was mesmerizing and terrifying all at once, a beacon of the unknown that drew them in despite their fear. It was a sight that would haunt them forever. The light seemed to pulse with a life of its own, casting eerie shadows and illuminating the forest in an otherworldly glow. The men stood frozen, their hearts pounding in their chests as they faced the inexplicable phenomenon before them. Please like and subscribe for more content. The light was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was a piercing, almost otherworldly glow that cut through the dense darkness of the forest. The trees, usually shrouded in shadows, were bathed in an eerie luminescence that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was an object, hovering silently above the trees, defying all known laws of physics. There was no sound, no wind, just a profound, unsettling silence that seemed to amplify the strangeness of the scene. The object was unlike any aircraft or drone they had ever seen, with a shape that was both familiar and alien. Emitting an eerie glow that illuminated the surrounding forest, the object cast long, dancing shadows that played tricks on the eyes. The light was almost hypnotic, drawing them in with its unearthly beauty and making it hard to look away. Curiosity and fear warred within them. What was it? A government experiment? A natural phenomenon? Theories raced through their minds, each more implausible than the last. Some thought it might be a secret military project, while others whispered about extraterrestrial visitors. The uncertainty gnawed at them, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end. Or something far more extraordinary? The possibility that they were witnessing something beyond human understanding was both thrilling and terrifying. The light seemed to pulse with a life of its own, as if it were aware of their presence and was beckoning them closer. Travis, a man known for his adventurous spirit, couldn't resist investigating. He had always been drawn to the unknown, the unexplained. This was a mystery too tantalizing to ignore. His heart pounded with a mix of excitement and dread as he took a step forward. Against the warnings of his terrified crewmates, he got out of the truck and cautiously approached the object. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown, the light growing brighter and more intense with every movement. His crewmates called out to him, their voices tinged with panic, but he was determined to uncover the truth. He stared in awe and disbelief as it hovered just meters away. The object was more magnificent up close, its surface shimmering with an iridescent glow that seemed to shift and change. He could feel a strange energy emanating from it, a force that made the air around him hum with electricity. Then, in a flash of blinding light and an ear-splitting sound, Travis was gone, vanished into thin air. The forest was plunged back into darkness, the only evidence of his presence the lingering echoes of his crewmates' frantic shouts. They were left standing in stunned silence, grappling with the impossible reality of what they had just witnessed. For 5 long days and nights, Travis Walton was gone without a trace. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving behind a mystery that would haunt his friends and family. The forest, usually a place of work and camaraderie, had turned into a scene of dread and uncertainty. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow cast by the moonlight seemed to whisper his name, adding to the growing tension. His crewmates, accused of his murder, faced intense scrutiny and suspicion. The authorities were relentless, questioning their every move, their every word. The men, who had only wanted to finish their day's work, now found themselves at the center of a media frenzy. Their faces, etched with worry and fear, were broadcasted across the nation, turning their lives upside down. They were interrogated, their stories met with disbelief and skepticism. Each man recounted the same harrowing tale, but the more they insisted, the more the authorities doubted them. The bright lights of the interrogation room bore down on them, amplifying their anxiety. The skeptical faces of the investigators only added to their torment, making them feel as though they were trapped in a nightmare with no end in sight. But they insisted on one thing: Travis had been taken right before their eyes. They described the blinding light, the strange craft, and the moment Travis disappeared. Their voices trembled with emotion as they relived the experience, their eyes wide with fear. They pointed towards the sky, trying to make sense of the incomprehensible event that had shattered their reality. Meanwhile, Travis was trapped in a terrifying alien world. The surroundings were unlike anything he had ever seen, filled with strange, otherworldly objects and eerie, pulsating lights. The air was thick with an unidentifiable scent, and the silence was deafening. He felt a profound sense of isolation, as if he were the only human in a vast, uncharted universe. He found himself aboard a strange craft, surrounded by beings unlike anything he had ever imagined. Their presence was both fascinating and terrifying. The room was filled with bright, almost blinding lights, and the walls seemed to hum with an energy that was both alien and unsettling. The beings moved with a grace and precision that was unnerving, their eyes never leaving him. They were small and slender, with large black eyes that seemed to see into his very soul. Their gaze was intense, almost hypnotic, and he felt as though they could read his every thought. The sheer otherness of their appearance was overwhelming, and he struggled to comprehend the reality of his situation. It was as if he had stepped into a nightmare, one from which he could not wake. He was subjected to painful examinations, his memories a jumbled mix of fear and confusion. The procedures were invasive and terrifying, leaving him in a state of constant distress. The flashing lights and high-tech equipment only added to his disorientation. Each moment felt like an eternity, and he could barely distinguish between reality and the horrors of his mind. The experience left him scarred, both physically and emotionally, forever altering his perception of the world. Then, just as suddenly as he had disappeared, Travis Walton reappeared. He was found dazed and confused, lying by the side of a remote highway miles from where he was last seen. His memories were fragmented, his body bearing strange marks. He returned not as the man he once was, but as someone forever altered by his encounter. Travis's story was met with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. Some dismissed him as a hoaxer, a fantasist seeking fame. Others believed his story, drawn to the raw terror that resonated from his testimony. The truth, it seemed, lay somewhere in the shadows. In an attempt to prove his innocence and the veracity of his claims, Travis agreed to take a polygraph test, a test that would become a cornerstone of his story. The results were inconclusive, but under the guidance of a respected polygraph examiner, he passed a second test with flying colours. His story, he insisted, was true. The polygraph tests, however, only deepened the mystery. Skeptics argued that polygraphs were not foolproof, easily manipulated by skilled deceivers. They pointed to inconsistencies in Travis's story, the lack of physical evidence. The debate raged on, dividing public opinion and fueling the fires of speculation. Those who believed Travis clung to the details of his story, the sincerity of his recounting. They cited the lack of a motive for a hoax, the psychological trauma he exhibited, and there was the UFO sighting itself, witnessed by 6 other individuals. Could they all be lying? Researchers flocked to the site of the alleged abduction, searching for any shred of evidence that could corroborate Travis's claims. They found unusual magnetic anomalies in the area, unexplained disturbances in the soil. But were these the remnants of an alien encounter, or simply natural phenomena misinterpreted through the lens of an extraordinary event?